You have 4 kinds of needs about fulfillment, hunger, appetite, and life tasks. Written and read by Bernhard Kutzler. You have physical and mental needs. Physical needs can be divided into, first, physiological needs for air, water, food, sunlight, and warmth, and second, sensory motor needs, such as for sensory stimuli and movement. The former serve to keep your cells and tissues healthy, while the latter serve to keep your sensory organs and musculoskeletal system healthy. You also have 2 types of mental needs. First, the general mental need for mental growth, and second, the individual mental need to fulfill your life's purpose. In the following, I will look at these needs in detail and explain how they can be met. We experience a need as hunger and appetite. Hunger arises from emptiness. Breathe out, and then don't breathe in for a few seconds. You experience the emptiness in your lungs as a hunger. The longer the emptiness lasts, the hungrier you become. Hunger is accompanied by an appetite. This word comes from the Latin appetere, meaning to long for. When your lungs are hungry, you have an appetite for breathing air. When your cells and tissues are hungry for water, nutrients, or minerals, you have an appetite for water or food that provides what is missing. You also have an appetite for knowing, understanding, and creating. An appetite also generates the search for your life's purpose. Hunger seeks fulfillment. Appetite gives it a direction. It shows what you should fill the void with. However, for most people, their natural hunger nor natural appetite function properly, neither physically nor mentally. The reason is that through social programming, we learn needs that override our natural needs. In nature, animals eat when they are hungry, they stop eating when they are no longer hungry, and they eat what they have an appetite for. A cow eats grass, not meat. A lion eats meat, not grass. Our natural physiological hunger and appetite are buried very early on. I will discuss an example below. In addition, industrially processed foods can disrupt metabolism, hunger, and appetite, which can lead to addictions, such as to sugar. It's similar with sensory motor needs. Animals are hungry for sensory stimuli and movement. They observe their surroundings with all their senses and roam around. Children are the same. They look, listen, touch, taste, etc., and they are constantly moving. They do this until they have learned to sit still, stare at a screen, a teacher, or a book, and watch and listen. The other senses are then increasingly neglected. Children also learn to move under supervision in gym class, instead of spontaneously following their appetite for movement. Children satisfy their general mental hunger and appetite by exploring the world. This includes play. Play is the highest form of research. Albert Einstein. Unfortunately, most adults do not take children's play seriously enough. Imagine a child who is absorbed in its play. A parent calls it to lunch. The child says that it is not hungry, but it must obey. It must stop its play and eat. The playing child is mentally hungry. Its mental appetite has chosen a game. Play was its mental food. But the child is forced to interrupt its play. It is forced to eat something even though it is not physically hungry. The child learns trying to satisfy its mental hunger with physical food, but that cannot succeed. Over time, this program becomes stronger and stronger, and the child turns from an active explorer into a passive consumer. Instead of curiously exploring the world, it pseudo-curiously explores the fridge or pantry. Food has become a substitute channel for its mental hunger. Other substitute channels we learn when growing up include possessions, sex, information, travel, and drugs. See my book, Curiosity, the Mental Hunger of Humans. Finally, there is also the individual mental hunger and appetite that leads us to our life's purpose. Everything in the universe has a purpose as part of the whole. The purpose of a bee is to be a bee. It fulfills a task as part of the biosphere. The purpose of an oak tree is to be an oak tree, etc. In cells, plants, and animals, their purpose is genetically inherent. A cheetah, for example, has no choice but to be a runner. A human can be a farmer, an engineer, a doctor, a teacher, a musician, a writer, a philosopher, and so on. How do you find your life's purpose among all these possibilities? Good examples of how this can happen are Albert Einstein, Pablo Picasso, and Nikola Tesla. Pablo's first word was piz, the short form of the Spanish word for pencil. His father was an art teacher. He recognized his son's talent early on and encouraged it. This set the course for Picasso's career. When Einstein was 4 or 5 years old, his father gave him a compass. Albert wanted to know why the needle behaved the way it did. He enjoyed exploring such questions and became a physicist. Einstein developed a special theory of relativity by thinking about magnetism. Young Tesla had a cat. When he was 4 or 5 years old, he noticed sparks were jumping from the cat's fur to his fingers when he stroked it. He asked his father for an explanation. The father didn't know, but suspected a connection with the lightning during a thunderstorm. Nikola asked himself, is nature nothing more than a big cat? He became an electrical engineer and genius inventor, and lightning was his trademark. There was cosmic guidance at work. The cosmos is the order in the universe. It drives everything and everyone to fulfill their purpose as part of the whole. The cosmos is like the conductor of an orchestra. Through the cosmos, everything comes into your life that you need to fulfill your life's purpose, such as people and circumstances. Intuition is your connection to the cosmos. I explain this in my article, Intuition is much more than just a sixth sense. Intuition works perfectly in animals, plants, and cells. It also works in young children until they lose their access because of social programming. Parents play a decisive role in this, either as supporters or preventers. Another word for life's purpose is vocation, from Latin vocatio, meaning a calling. A calling is the mental appetite for fulfilling your life's purpose. But very few people are following their calling. Most have a job that earns them money. I describe how we have collectively learned to work for money instead of following our calling in my article, Bartering equals Deceiving. There is another aspect to this topic that I will not go into here. If a hunger remains unfulfilled, aggression arises. I explain the connections and consequences in my article, Why is there so much aggression? It is about recognizing our natural or true needs so that we can fulfill them, so that we lead a fulfilled life. To do this, you must free yourself from your learned needs. I describe how to do this in my article, How to Become What You Truly Are in 7 Steps, and in my book, Being Free, Get Out of the Box.